The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NFL Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in the NFL from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NFL Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NFL.
The Dallas Cowboys held their annual training camp press conference, and it was something.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And let's talk about Micah Parsons, because that was obviously the biggest story from the training camp press conference.
Yeah.
Here's the updates. Jerry and Stephen Jones have not talked to the agent yet. They both feel confident that a deal is going to eventually get done. They talked about how they're really excited that Micah's here, showing the leadership. And then things got a little wonky when it started to talking about missing games and other stuff.
Yeah, let's take a step. I mean, we don't need to take a step back. We can stand from right here. I think this is a great example of what we talked about in the last segment, right? Where Jerry has created this situation where everyone is misinterpreting, like almost to the point where it's intentional, misinterpreting what he's saying to kind of blow things out of proportion, because he you know, the way he presents things, the way he phrases things. I think that this whole thing blew up because of a perceived criticism of Micah and Dak, is what, because he got mentioned in that same paragraph of them signing these contracts or just missing time in general, and that's why Jerry is wary of signing long-term deals. I don't think that's what Jerry was trying to say, and I think that this is another great example of Jerry overcomplicating his message and not kind of delivering what's very simple. I think the 10,000-foot view of what Jerry was trying to get across was that he's happy about the way Micah is handling his contract situation and the way that he's handling Micah's contract situation, because he's getting the best of both worlds. And that if you look at the Trayvon situation where they signed the deal early, you've got a situation where, a guy is not doing everything that you would want him to do. I think if anything, he was trying to compare Micah to Trayvon and how, look, Micah's doing all the things that you want to be doing, that you should be doing. He's showing up to practice, he's being a leader, but Jerry fumbled it all so much that he ends up, sounding to criticism. And ultimately, let's break that criticism down. Jerry actually was chiming in on a question to Schottenheimer about contingencies for what happens if, Micah doesn't practice very much during a hold-in. I kind of think that Jerry was speaking in a global terms, like, hey, sometimes these guys aren't here. We have to let them practice. And because it was kind of in the same time zone as general Micah Parsons contract talk, everyone assumed that it was, oh, Jerry feels like he's not getting his money from Dak because he got hurt, or he doesn't want to sign Micah because he got hurt. Which
Michael Parsons, because he did say Michael Parsons.
Yeah, I mean, literally, yeah, that was the funny thing, right? Is that he literally used his full name, right? Michael Parsons, a sentence later, praising him, saying Michael Parsons is the most well thought financial player that he's ever had to sit across the table from, or I'm paraphrasing, but something like that. It was effusive praise. So it wasn't, the headline that came out was shots fired by Jerry Jones, but it really, again, no sympathy for Jerry because he set himself up for this. But again, this is what happens. It's hard to get to the truth of what's being said because everyone's, not reading the context of when Jerry is saying what he's saying. And Jerry's already very difficult to understand.
So I'm really glad that you added that context, because I mean, for the listeners, right now, you understand at least what we think Jerry was trying to say. However, sometimes the context doesn't matter, because this is what happened. JJ Watt quoted a video of Jerry making that statement, and he said, anytime that you can publicly take a dig at your star quarterback and your star pass rusher simultaneously right before the season begins, you've got to take it. Nothing makes guys want to fight for you more than hearing how upset you are that they got hurt while fighting for you. And of course, that tweet goes viral because Micah Parsons retweets it, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter what Jerry's trying to say because Micah obviously agrees with what JJ is saying. And again, this is why it's all so draining.
Yeah. Now we're talking about social media. Now we're not talking about football anymore. It's like, it's, and again, I can see in some ways that it's like it perceived as like, oh, more clicks, more likes, more views and all that stuff. But at the same time, like it's exhausting. It's truly exhausting for a lot of folks. So, I do think that Jerry is to blame for a lot of what he said, but I don't think it's for the way that a lot of people are interpreting. He should be blamed. I think it's the general environment that he's created that has caused situations like this to continually happen over and over.
And what I said on Twitter, as soon as it happens, like I have no doubt that Mike is going to get a big deal before week 1. He's going to be the highest paid defensive player in the league. But it's just all this song and dance that we're going to go through again. And now we're going to be talking tomorrow about like, hey, is Micah going to hold in? Is he not going to practice? What's that going to look like? And is Micah mad? And I just don't understand it. It's so frustrating.
Yeah. And hopefully as the weeks come on, we're going to get more football and this will kind of fade into the background, but it's just going to be a part until it's not. It's just going to be a part of this conversation until it's done. And that's just, more frustrating than it is like anything else.
We should just really quickly touch on, they talked about wanting to do some of these deals later versus earlier and in their strategy. It seems like they've just kind of the conclusion, like, hey, we would rather see an extra year of these guys perform before we give them a big deal. And it's going to cost us more in the end. But Jerry brought up Terrence Steele and Trayvon Diggs and basically saying, hey, we kind of wish we didn't do those deals ahead of time. I wonder if this is just going to be the philosophy going forward.
Until it isn't. And look, I don't know if, I was talking to you, like, I don't know if the time, it feels like the switch in this also coincides with the timing of them getting the analytics department, even though that seems totally backwards because I can't imagine an analytical, and maybe there is, and maybe I'm wrong, but I can't imagine analytical argument to why this would be a positive way to handle things. I think this is just a comfort thing. And then ultimately they feel like the difference in what they pay at the end of the day is worth it to them. It's a drop in the bucket because, as we all keep hearing over and over again, the salary cap isn't real. You can just roll this money over. So why not use that to give a little bit longer look-see on the contract that you have up front and not have to pay that cash until later? I don't think this is a good strategy, but I mean, I'm arguing that I guess it is a strategy as opposed to, just like pure incompetence. I think it's probably the lesser ideal of the two strategies. It's not going to save you a lot of money, and maybe that hurts you in the long run. But if you can figure out, financially ways to make things happen, maybe it ends up, ending up all the same in the wash.
Ever wish managing your money felt easier? Maybe the Cincinnati Bengals do. With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
It's all happening not just for the Chiefs, but for one in particular. George Karlaftis gets it done.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Waiting for deals to happen sometimes requires deadlines. And this is part of it. And while we're going to clarify specifics here, the George Karlaftis deal is a big part of this, what the pass rush looks like. How is it going to change in the future? That's coming up later in the show. What the pass rush itself looks like for 2025 as we are on the cusp of seeing guys on the field at training camp. And we start with George Karlaftis, the deal itself, value, etc. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, as well as my outlets, RGR Football and NFL 33, where you can get a lot more information as well. my partner, Chris Clark, over at KC Chiefs Corner. You can find his work there. Here we are, and we know in the draft class where you have 2 number 1 picks, somebody had to go first. I think this makes a lot of sense that the George Karlaftis deal gets done ahead of time because I think it's a little bit more straightforward. I don't think you see as high a highs, and I don't think he is as elite a pass rusher as Trent McDuffie is a cornerback. So I'm relieved, honestly, that they got it out of the way because it feels like George is quicker. He looks like he's in better shape, and he might have an epic year for the Kansas City Chiefs this season. They might have just saved themselves some money.
4 years, $93 million with $62 million guaranteed, and you're going to say that they saved some money.
Could be more next year, you know what I mean?
No, I get it. I said it that way on purpose. I love this deal. I love the structure. To be clear, it's not really just a $93 million contract. It's like a $115 million contract because it includes his 2 years that he still had left on his current contract. So it's an extension that ties him through 2030, I believe, with the Chiefs. So this is a great deal for Kansas City. It's a good deal for George, too. He gets the signing bonus, which can be prorated out up to 5 years. So that will not be prorated out on the last year. So this is going to have a little bit of a cap impact for 2025. I haven't found that information out there yet. But essentially, this comes down to a 6-year deal for like $115 million, and I will take that for George Karlaftis. I think that's like $17 million a year is I think what I saw being talked about for this one. And when you look at it from that perspective, it makes a lot of sense for Kansas City. He's not a top-tier pass rusher. He's not going to be a guy like Myles Garrett, and I'm okay with that. But they paid him like he is a top probably 20 and maybe even top 15 pass rusher. And the reality of this contract is that by the time he actually starts to see the new money and the new contract, he'll be vastly underpaid. Mm-hmm. That's just the reality of NFL contracts.
Very, very true. And the 93, even the 93 over 4, which is just the new money, which is normally what I refer to instead of lumping it together with the 2 years that we already know what the costs are. Just in terms of the new money, that's going to get caught up to rather quickly as well. So when you take a step back and you look at him as a pass rusher in his time in the league, the only guy from his class that can even hold a candle and is better than him in terms of some statistical production, but had an injury, is Aiden Hutchinson, the guy that was top of the top of that draft class. George has outplayed my expectation for him. And I don't think he's done yet because while he's made improvements, I still see more to his game that can come. We'll talk about where that goes initially. But I think this contract pays him for what he is about to do this season and the season after that, and maybe even through 27.
Okay, so if I'm looking at the deals as they are right now, as far as we know, I think this takes into account just about everything. He is getting paid, if you just look at the 4 years over 93, he's getting paid about $23.5 million a year. That would put him in the top 10 when it comes to pass rushers. But if you really look at the contract, like I said, it's more like 17.25, which puts him about in the 15 to 16 to 18 range, somewhere in there, which to me is perfect for what you want to be paying George. I agree with you. I think he could be getting better as this contract goes on. This also does something else for him. He's 24 years old. He now has the ability to have a third contract at a pretty good rate because he's going to be getting out of this one at 29, close to 30. So I do think that this is a fantastic deal for Kansas City. I'm glad it got done. And I think it makes a lot of sense. When you start looking at what they're going to have to pay Trent McDuffie, that's going to be a lot more money. And now that you have this deal done, you know what he's on the books for the next 6 years. You can now figure out, what can I give Trent McDuffie? What can I get? How can I get this deal done? And if you do that, then you have both these guys locked up for the long term. And McDuffie's deal, if he gets one, is going to be similar to Karlaftis's, where it's just going to be an extension added on to the 2 years that he's got left right now.
Agreed. And they could be working on that right now for all we know. And if they are, more power to them. Because much like George Karlaftis, I think Trent McDuffie will have continued acceleration and more value after this season.
Yeah, the other thing that really sticks out to me on this is the corner group has kind of been set. The market's been set by, look at the guys that have been paid. Sauce Gardner got paid. Yeah, Derek. So thank you. I was trying to think of his name. Several guys have been paid, and Surtain the second got paid as well. Or the Pat Surtain in Denver got paid as well. So you have all these different corner contracts. J.C. Horn got paid that have kind of set the market at that position.
Mm-hmm.
Edges, you don't have that. You have edges that are resetting the market in T.J. Watt and Myles Garrett. And now you have Aiden Hutchinson on deck, and you get this deal done before Aiden Hutchinson gets paid. And I do think that really plays into how this got done and why this got done when it did. I would bet money that they were working on this deal long before they even signed Trey Smith to his deal, because they had parameters and they had an idea, and it just came together because they finally had the Trey Smith deal done. They knew what they had left. They knew what they needed to work with, and this got the deal done with George Karlaftis. And the reason they're able to pay him what they're able to pay him is because they're able to give him a lot more money in year one in signing bonus cash that he wasn't going to be getting beforehand, and that gets them a discount on the back end. This is fantastic for them, and I will have more once we get more of the information as to what this cap numbers are going to be, how that's going to break out year to year once we have the full signing bonus information, and how that's going to work for the cap going forward. But at this point, I love this deal for the Chiefs. He's not a top 5 pass rusher, but I also don't want to be paying him like a top 5 pass rusher, and that's the problem. If you're going to go pay a pass rusher, you're going to have to pay top 7, top 5 money just to get somebody probably as good as George for probably, what would you think, a 30 to 50% markup? Because free agency is going to cost them more.
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head. The thing that saved them the most money here is getting done before Hutchinson. Because even though statistically he's a higher player, it would still pull that value up. So by getting it signed and out of the way, you saved yourself that markup as well. And I think long-term, that helps this whole defense and this whole roster. They have to get better. They got better by signing George Karlaftis.
Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same game parlay or watching a bet right in the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started.
Zach Tom just signed a historic extension with the Green Bay Packers.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast.
Zach Tom is going to be a Green Bay Packer maybe for life. He signs a 4-year deal worth $88 million, as much as $92 million, and what at least it is being reported as a historic amount of guaranteed money, signing bonus money for an offensive lineman. This is how the Packers navigate not going crazy with the AAV, the average annual value. Is you give a $30 million signing bonus. You give more than they would get somewhere else, or than anyone else has gotten in this case. This is, by the way, the second mega deal the Packers have done in the last year, where they have set a new record for guaranteed money. No one had ever signed for a signing bonus the size of Jordan Love. Now no offensive lineman has ever signed for a signing bonus like Zach Tom. And while Jason inadvertently called me out yesterday, or maybe advertently, for saying, hey, look, I don't know that 2024 was as good as some Packer fans would lead you to believe for Zach Tom. That I believe that. And yet, this is a deal that I did not think would get done for less than $25 million a year. And over 4 years, I mean, that's $12 million difference. And I was saying, I thought Rasheed Walker was going to get between $20 and $22 million a year. I think Zach Tom is a materially better player. And so this is value. This is value. Look at the free agent deals signed this offseason. I understand the free agent tax. Aaron Banks got almost $20 million. Aaron Banks, I know he's a Packer now, not as good. Not as good as Zach Tom. Dan Moore, a guy that Pittsburgh, who needed offensive linemen, said, bye, got $20.5 million in free agency. The Kansas City Chiefs paid a backup player, at least from a preferred starter standpoint, $15 million in free agency to come be, I guess, maybe their swing tackle. That's how much the league is saying we need these guys. And yet the top end of the market has not quite caught up. And I'll be honest, I don't understand it. Trent Williams does not even make $30 million a year. He is the best left tackle in the league. Penei Sewell, Lane Johnson, they don't make what the best pass rushers make. Myles Garrett got $40 million a year this offseason. And then TJ Watt got $41 million. And yet the guys who have to block them for 40, 50, 60 plays a game are getting 25? Tell me how that makes sense. There are 7 pass rushers, 7 edge players who make more money than Trent Williams. Trent Williams, like if you ask 49ers fans, they will tell you he's the MVP of that team. One of the best football players in the NFL and has been for a decade. 5 pass rushers make over $30 million a year. Trent Williams makes 27.5. There are, and I just mentioned there are 2 players who make $40 million. So we're talking about almost double what Zach Tom is going to make. Like the next Micah Parsons might get double Zach Tom AAV. And yet, if those 2 guys play, Micah might only beat him 1 or 2 times more. Well, in a game, all he needs to do is beat him 1 or 2 times. Zach Tom is going to win 98% of their matchups, 99% of their matchups, and Micah Parsons is going to get paid double. Explain to me how that makes sense. Explain to me how that makes sense. It doesn't. And so even if I don't think Zach Tom is quite, and by the way, not to, totally throw the appeal to authority fallacy at you, but Brandon Thorne, who does the trench warfare rankings, he's one of, I think he, for my money, is the best media member at evaluating and explaining offensive line play. He's been on the show a bunch over the years talking about draft picks and Packers offensive line. He didn't have Zach Tom as a top 5 right tackle last year. And I don't think it matters. That's the crazy thing about this contract. If he's the 6th or 7th best right tackle in the league, and I think he's a top 5 right tackle, but if he's the 6th or 7th best right tackle in the league, this is still good value because I don't think the league has caught up to the value of these players. Now, let me say, offensive line is, as I've said many times, a weak link system. So it is not how good your best players are. It is how bad your worst players are. That will define the ceiling of your football team and will certainly define the ceiling of your offensive line. If you have bad players on your offensive line, you are cooked. It doesn't matter. You could have Trent Williams in his prime and Lane Johnson in his prime and, Frank Winters from 1996. I don't know why he was the center I thought of. But if your left guard, or if your right guard is Byron Bell, you're going to struggle because what are the teams going to do? They're going to put their best guy on your worst guy, and it's going to be a problem. And then if you have to give help with your right tackle who's really good, well, now you've got to give help, or your center's got to give help every time. Well, then now there's easy ways to attack you. It isn't how good your best players are. It's how bad your worst players are. So I do think that the same way with a receiver, the guys covering the receivers for a long time were not making what the receivers were, and they still aren't. And that's because coverage is a weak link system. The NFL's marketplace is telling us what we already knew, that coverage is a weak link system. And that offensive line is a weak link system. But one pass rusher can change your whole pass rush. One receiver can change your whole passing offense. And so that's why that money is different. I think all of that is true. And yet, I think the corner market has been artificially suppressed because I do think if you have one good corner, it's really valuable. But I think one really good offensive lineman is in some ways even more valuable because I think it's easier to attack other parts of the field from a passing game standpoint than it is to attack other parts of your offensive line, just by the very definition of the way the offensive line numbers work. You have 5 offensive linemen. You should have an advantage more often than not with the number of blockers that you have. So I look at this and I go, okay, what does this tell me about the Packers? They paid Aaron Banks. They've now paid Zach Tom. They drafted Jordan Morgan. They drafted Anthony Belton. What does the future of this offensive line look like? And there's still a lot to be determined on that front. Where does Elton Jenkins fit in all of this? He's under contract. Is there a way to make this work? Now, I think the numbers, when we see the specifics on this deal, are going to show pretty low base salaries in year 1 and 2. That's almost always how this works, that Zach Tom will continue to be inexpensive year 1, year 2, which is why if you wanted to give some more guaranteed money to Elton Jenkins into year 2, you're probably not bumping up against what you're giving Zach Tom here. But you may have determined this is all you want to do. The Packers have the leverage with Elton Jenkins. He is under contract. And he's under contract for a lot of money. He is not underpaid for a center. But I'm telling you, what Elton Jenkins wants is assurances that he is not going to be on the chopping block in the spring. Because if he gets hurt, he's probably going to be gone. And he just changed positions. And it is a big risk for him. I don't know that this changes that because the Packers have said, we think he's an all-pro. But they don't have to do anything with the contract. And really, they're not being unfair to him because he's getting a lot of money. If he were just a center, he would not be on this current contract and he would be the top of market center. So if you're the Packers, you're going, what are you talking about? Fix the contract. The contract's fixed. You're in great shape. Go earn the money. And he's going to say, well, yeah, but even if I play well in a year, you're not going to want to pay me this money to be a center because I'm be way too expensive in the last year of my contract. And that will be true, which is why they're in the current situation that they are. Now,